If you can accomplish something in a game, then you can accomplish something in a game fast. Dwarf Fortress has a speedrun.com leaderboard for anyone who wants to go to hell, kill their own dwarves, become the mountain home, or defeat a goblin siege fast. That last category was the one that interested me the most when I first found out about Dwarf Fortress speedrunning. Defeating a goblin siege was a good time commitment middle point between the couple of minutes it would take to go to hell or kill my dwarves, and the half a day I would probably have to commit at a minimum in order to become the mountain home. The Goblin Siege % category required that I play a vanilla install of Dwarf Fortress, but it did say I was allowed to change the tile set, so I swapped in Space Fox to make this video a bit more watchable. It did warn me that a tile set might slow me down, but that just means that now I have a built-in excuse if it doesn't go well. My first attempt, or as I like to see it, my practice round, was over within the first year. I was raided by multiple kobolds, my outpost liaison didn't come, and my merchants wouldn't leave. It felt a little like my civilization was either dead or dying, and I needed to reach 80 citizens if I wanted to get sieged. So at 1 hour 12 minutes, I quit and hoped that my next run would be a bit more fortunate. The next day I returned and began my first real attempt, otherwise known as my second attempt. To start, I quickly generated a world, picked a mountain near a goblin civilization, gave my dwarves some skills to get them started, and bought a sword and some wine. When we arrived at our destination, I designated out the main body of the base, where I would put the workshops and the beds. Once it was dug out, I immediately put a dwarf to work, creating some rock crafts to try to bump up our created wealth, so that people would think we were rich and want to come stay with us. I had only briefly skimmed the runs performed by my opponents on the Goblin Siege % leaderboard, so I didn't know if there were any specific strats of any kind that I should be performing to optimally piss off goblins. However, I did know that the time spent in menus designating or building stuff was time wasted, because the game wasn't running, so I tried to only expand when necessary. Though I did go a little mad and built way too many beds in the dormitory for some reason. Because my main job was to keep the game ticking along, it ended up that a large chunk of this run was just me watching the dwarven ant farm I had created, and pressing space to advance through strange moods. When the state of the fort necessitated it, I would take the smallest pauses I could to build an essential room or try to find some adamantine to make some swords out of. The adamantine was important because I had been trading crafts for weapons every spring, but the last thing I needed in my siege-based speedrun was to end on a long drawn-out siege. So, to disperse the goblins as soon as possible, I wanted the best equipment for the job. Not long after conscripting a third squad of dwarves to join the military, I sent them on a mission to raid the nearby goblin civilization just to raise tempers a little bit. I don't know if that's actually a mechanic, but it sounded like it should work, so I gave it a go. They did all get killed or captured immediately though, which makes sense considering I hadn't given them any training or weapons. So I was 10 dwarves farther away from the 80 that I needed for goblins to be able to siege me. Around the 3-hour mark, I finally reached the 80 citizen threshold, and waited with bated breath. Luckily I didn't hold my breath too long, because it took another 1 hour and 13 minutes for the goblins to even notice me and bother sending a siege my way. Once it finally arrived, I went overboard assigning squads, and sent a wave of 40 highly trained dwarves crashing into the 10 undertrained goblins that had dared to siege me, which ended up with a resounding victory for me. This meant that I had finally completed the speedrun. The timer at the end read 4 hours, 13 minutes, 18 seconds, which was good enough to put me in a distant third, aka last on the leaderboard. But optimistically, also a podium finish. Even though you could almost play my opponent's speedruns back to back in the time it takes to watch the entirety of my one run, I will enjoy my bronze medal while it lasts. Which, given the frequency of runs on the leaderboard, might be a while. I had to upload my full run if I wanted to corroborate my claim for last place, so if you're the kind of person who is craving a 4-hour, 13-minute completely silent video in which most of the time is spent waiting for more migrants to show up, then boy do I have the video for you linked in the description.